The following program is a Town of Colonie television production of the William K. Sanford Town Library.
Hello and welcome to Forum on Safety. My name is Pete Latanzio and I'm the Chief of the Town of Colonie Department of Fire Services. And today my two guests are Investigator Julia Murphy from the New York State Police and Investigator Rick DiGiulio from the Colonie Police Department, who's one of our forensic detectives. And I would like to welcome both of you here today.
Thank you.
And today's show is kind of something different that we're kind of, I guess, we're asking for the public's help out there a little bit in a sense, and it's called Operation Safeguard. And Julia, I'm going to ask you to explain what Operation Safeguard is all about.
Great. Thank you for having me. Operation Safeguard is a New York State law enforcement initiative designed to protect lives and economic vitality by enlisting business community in the ongoing fight on the war against terror. Specifically, this program is a New York State Office of Homeland Security program which enlists all of our law enforcement partners by educating our business communities, our private sector, and providing them with suspicious indicators that are specific to their businesses to better enable them to report anything they see suspicious. It also provides a conduit for reporting these suspicious indicators through a established toll-free tip line, which is 1-866-SAFE-NYS. And that number is available and staffed 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
This, I kind of assume this has been precipitated since 9/11, and with our country being attacked on our own soil from a foreign entity, I guess this is what started this whole thing. Is that fair to say?
Yes, that's correct. In 2002, New York City Police Department had the precursor to this program titled Operation Nexus, which basically had the same fundamental tenets to outreach to the communities. It also tied in directly with community policing. In 2004, the rest of the state of New York, through our 16 counterterrorism zones, worked this program under the title Operation Safeguard. So it did have some basis from 9/11.
You gave out the phone number, and that's staffed 24 hours a day, and you're asking for folks to, especially the business folks, to come back with information that may not seem quite right to them. I guess one of my first thoughts is, here we are in Colonie, New York. What kind of stuff would come into this, or what kind of information have you been receiving in, and is a lot of it, or has any of it been really credible as to the information that you have been getting in?
Well, that's a good question. I think that the business sectors that we target are numerous. We have over 100 businesses that are have been outreached. I know, for example, Colonie has been very assistive with getting outreach to a lot of their public sector and their businesses in their communities. Some of the typical types of businesses that are outreach through Operation Safeguard are pool supply companies, self-storage facilities, commercial driving schools, martial arts facilities. Really, there are numerous types of businesses, and a lot of them have certain types of assets that, whether they could be a chemical, if it was a chemical plant, if it was purchased in large quantity, could be of some concern if it was purchased by someone that had illicit intentions. So it's incumbent upon the public to make those observations. And you asked the question, what are the types of calls that we get if a citizen observes a person making a purchase of a large quantity of a chemical? That may be something we get a call on, and then information, other detailed information that goes hand in hand with that, such as a plate number to a vehicle, can help us identify the person that made that purchase and then track down to determine if it was done for legitimate reasons.
Rich and I just came back. We just both had the opportunity to go out to New Mexico, and to the Homeland Security School for the incident response to terrorism. And I've been exposed to some of this type of training in the past, but this was a very intense 4-day class and a lot of hands-on stuff. And it was amazing the information that came out, and the stuff that we were able to witness. They actually constructed devices and different things, and a lot of the stuff can be purchased locally. So I can see where it would definitely be a concern for you folks. But I don't know, Rich, what was your opinion? I thought it was a real eye-opening school.
It was an excellent school. Amazing what you can find in your own household that you have to be cautious of.
The materials are very readily accessible, and the damage that can be inflicted is kind of amazing. And they profiled a lot of the different incidents. They looked at the Oklahoma City bombing. They looked at the London attacks in the subways and the bus, and a few of the others. And again, a lot of those cases were brought together by information that came from the public. And there was some very good investigative skills that were used, but a lot of that information did come back in from the public, and the public was very instrumental in solving a lot of those incidents and ultimately making arrests. You have, this is something that not just the state police. You made mention that it's tied into all the other police agencies in New York State.
That's correct. This is a New York State Office of Homeland Security sponsored program. So basically, it's a collaboration of all law enforcement entities throughout the state of New York.
So if a call comes into this line and the information's taken, you would reach out to the local authorities, such as Colonie PD in our case, and you said you've got that very good working relationship with them, so they would work with you folks to look or trace down this information or track it down to see if it's legitimate or not?
That's correct. The call gets generated to our New York State Intelligence Center, and it's documented there, and then the information is coordinated with the local counterterrorism intelligence unit investigators. That's the position I hold in this area, and we work with the local jurisdiction. So if it was an incident that occurred in the town of Colonie, I would work with my partner in the Colonie Police Department.
Okay.
And, well, they actually have it set up that in each zone they have FIOs, the Field Intelligence Officers. They've been designated by their departments as a outreach for NICIC.
And again, those would be the people, the feet on the street type of guys that would go out and start to track this stuff down?
That would be their point of contact with that agency. A lot of times the stuff that comes into us would then go out to either detectives or patrolmen to do follow-ups on, and then get back to us, and we would report back to the state police and to the intelligence center.
Again, just here we are in Colonie. We've heard of an incident in the city of Albany where they looked at a couple of individuals where they were actually arrested and convicted for possibly getting a shoulder-operated missile. And I believe we had the folks out in Buffalo, too. Several years ago, there was a terrorist ring up in Buffalo broken up. But you kind of look at Colonie and you say, is really something ever going to happen here, or can this be the hub of something here? How many cases or how many calls has Colonie PD received where you guys have looked into things?
Wow.
I mean, I'm not going to hold you to an
Yeah.
exact number, but
Right.
I mean, has it been a fair number, or is it just like, a few sporadic
the
things?
whole motto is see something, say something. We get a lot of phone calls. A lot of the stuff that we do receive is looked into and ruled out as anything, being anything of any kind of serious nature. But we'd rather have the phone call and look into it and, verify the data as being nothing of a concern, rather than not get the phone call and something happens that could be serious.
We've always kind of had the philosophy of no stone left unturned. I mean, something that seems very easily explainable, and I'd say in many cases they are explainable when you get to the bottom of what the incident is. It's better for us in today's day and age to have that level of comfort and understand that there was an explanation for whatever the suspicious behavior is. But I also wanted to back up. You brought up a point with your training that you went to and referenced the Oklahoma City bombing and the London case. It's important for us in today's day and age with Operation Safeguard and See Something, Say Something, that we don't get tunnel vision in just international terrorism and terrorism generated from the Middle East, because we do have homegrown terrorist subjects and people that are interested in causing harm to our country that can assimilate in our environment and go virtually unnoticed. So it's very important for our community to be mindful of all ethnic groups as possible perpetrators.
Yeah, you're 100% right. Not only the Oklahoma City bombing, but they talked about Eric Rudolph, who did the Olympic bombing in several abortion clinics in the South. And we had, Ted Kaczynski with some local ties, the Unabomber. So yeah, they had no contacts with any foreign countries. That was unfortunately homegrown type of stuff. So
absolutely.
So it's
Then you
out
also have anything, a lot of criminal activity can sometimes gets linked back to terrorism because they have to fund it somehow. So you'll look at a lot of the different credit type scams that are out there on the internet and everything else that we look into. A lot of that, of course, because it's coming from overseas, gets turned over to another agency for follow-up. But we do initiate it, and we do, it does go into the database so that we, the information's out there. But some of that stuff can be linked back to some type of group overseas.
Julia, you talked about the businesses being involved, and you were kind of specific in some of the businesses that you've keyed in on because of obvious concerns. But what about the average homeowner? I live in my neighborhood. I'm familiar with the people in my neighborhood for the most part, or at least I hope I am. And what would I be looking for in my area, or what would be something that should catch my attention that would warrant me to make this phone call? What can we do as citizens to participate into this and to help?
Well, that is a good question. I know one of the target businesses that we have increased outreach to is real estate businesses, and those are folks that are out in the communities going into homes, kind of along the same lines as the question that you have, the regular citizen in the community. I think just having your eyes and ears to subjects that may be traveling through your neighborhood frequently. If you have a subject, or say you have a residence near a park, if you have a subject that's coming into a park, meeting someone, groups of people that are meeting together, if you have someone that's leaving a package or something, a duffel bag at a location and then walking away from it, those are types of activities that would definitely increase the suspicion level. Any other?
We both investigated together. Remember the one they were getting a lot of deliveries to a residence, and neighbors were suspicious of them, we called in. We looked into it. It was legitimate. They were getting deliveries and they were shipping things out. It was, a business that was being run out of a home. So that wasn't any kind of a problem, but it did raise concern, and the public called, and that's what this is all about: is people being alert and making that phone call.
It could be also a lot of traffic at a particular residence, whether you have multiple people coming in and out of a residence, or on the opposite, maybe a business that opens up where there's no activity or indication that the business is operating. It could just be a front for some other criminal activity.
I've heard of people taking photographs, places where maybe they shouldn't be taking photographs. Town of Colonie is kind of in the hub of things because we have the Northway that comes through, we have the Thruway, we have the airport, we have rail lines here. We got two rivers that we border, so there's a lot of traffic that can come and go. Where's the difference between a person just going out to take a picture of the leaves changing color in the fall, and somebody looking past those leaves and taking pictures of certain buildings? I mean, should those be indicators too? Are those the type of calls that maybe you want to get from somebody?
Well, we have received calls like that in the past, and they do get investigated, and that's where our role is to actually look into that to see what the intent was from the individual. We've gotten calls right on site where they say there's somebody over at the airport taking pictures, and somebody who's airplane buff who likes taking pictures of airplanes. But we talk to them, we look what they have on their camera usually, we ask them, they say, yeah, sure, they're just an airplane buff, and we verify that information, and then they're fine. They're asked if they're going to do that again, if they want to take continuing pictures at the airport, that they check in with the airport management and get permission to do so.
Okay. So just makes their life a little bit easier so they don't have somebody knocking on their door and asking what they were up to.
It makes our life easier, though we're not, running down all these leads, because it's time consuming, it's manpower issues.
I know we have a lot of government buildings here, and I know there was even a question with some people up at our water treatment plant at one point taking some photographs, and I know that was tracked down also. But those are the kind of calls that you want from folks. You know, there's people out here in a car, they pop up and, you know, they're grabbed a couple of pictures and they drove away. You want to hear about that type of thing, correct?
Definitely, and particularly when it relates to critical infrastructure, like you mentioned, water treatment plant, the airport, you know, things that cause concern for our safety in our communities. And the more detailed information that people can make observations on and report, such as physical description of the person, what type of vehicle they were driving, the plate number, and, you know, along with the description of the vehicle, because sometimes, and maybe quite often, a person doesn't actually record the plate number down correctly because it's, you know, a fleeting moment. But all of that information can be very critical to us tracking down that person to try and ascertain, you know, their reasons for conducting that activity.
So the more information somebody could grab, the better. Again, a quick description of what the folks look like, the type of car. If you can get a plate number, that would be great. And I know sometimes you don't have the opportunity to do that because things do happen so quickly, or just because your vantage point is limited. But as much information as somebody could get is what they should be writing it down and then giving that information into you folks.
Definitely.
And they don't have to just call this number. They could call right into the Colonie Police in our case, correct?
Yes, they can.
And pass that along?
And if it's an emergency situation, obviously that would not preclude dialing 911. That would be, you know, a better option if it was some type of emergency behavior that was observed. But if it's suspicious behavior, the toll-free tip line is great. The local police department number is also fine too.
You mentioned before about people kind of being aware of their surroundings, and I think a lot of this in our country, I don't know if we're really prepared for a lot of this stuff yet. We're not keyed in on it. And I use an example in my own building. It's a government building, and last year I happened to be walking through our foyer area, and in the center there's a podium. There was a briefcase left there. And I looked down and I noticed the briefcase, but there's nobody around. And obviously it was very suspicious to me right away, but the amount of employees and other people who walked past that package or that briefcase, and it didn't appear to draw any interest to anybody because I don't think people are looking that way. And when I went downstairs, I eventually found the person who owned it. He was on the payphone quite a ways away from it, and he had set it there and just not even thought about it. But in this day and age, you can't do things like that. But I guess I was just surprised at the amount of people that walked by this briefcase and just didn't pay any attention to it at all.
I think that we find that the further we get away from 9/11, there may be some level of apathy, that people feel comfortable that, you know, nothing's going to happen, but we do need to be very diligent and be concerned of anything like that.
I think the school last week really brought a lot of stuff home for me. They mentioned that there has been a tremendous amount of counterintelligence going on. There's been a lot of plots foiled across this country because of good counterintelligence, because of cooperation between state police and local PDs and sheriff's departments. So there's that collaboration now, and there's that information sharing, and there's been several incidents, probably could have been major incidents in this country that have been foiled already because of this type of cooperation. And again, I think because of the public having some awareness and some knowledge about it and feeding information into you folks. What else can folks do? Is there anything else that we can do out there that would support this operation?
Well, I think, you know, that it does go hand in hand with community policing. I think that's one of the real fundamental strengths of the program, that our patrol officers from a variety of law enforcement agencies can implement this program with their regular patrol duties. So, and it also works well for those folks like myself that are assigned to terrorism detail, whether we're out, you know, looking to contact certain types of businesses. We do draw a lot from the Office of Homeland Security advisories that come out through the state of New York. Based on a variety of factors, they may ask us to outreach to certain types of businesses. So, you know, I think the program works well across the board.
Now, Rich, is RPD, I know that you're the contact person for our police department, but have all the officers been kind of brought into the loop on this and been told that you know, or at least instructed that if you get these type of things, go take a report, get as much information as possible. So it's not just you doing this, it's everybody that's out there in uniform?
Yeah, it's a team effort. Everybody in the department's aware of it. A lot of the stuff that I have to do, I have to outsource, you know, right down to patrols. There's no way I can contact all the businesses. I mean, an example, we had over 946 different businesses in the town I did mailings to. Some of them I have response back, some I didn't get responses back. So therefore, once I didn't, then I actually sent officers to those to actually try to get them to, we have what we call a information retrieval form, that we get data back from the business. On top of that, by doing that, it helped us update our emergency card listing of all the businesses in the town, getting emergency contact numbers and correct phone numbers, addresses, you know, whether they had alarms or not. So it helped us out both ways, not only, you know, on the counterterrorism side of it, but just basically for our own information that, you know, 2 o'clock in the morning when an alarm goes off in a building, we know who we can reach out to. So you have to utilize them. And some of the cases that we've had, that we've looked into, you know, we've had 3 or 4 detectives working on it. So everybody's basically up to speed on what Safeguard is and does.
Now, the information that you send out to the business, is that just a one-time thing, or is that something that gets renewed periodically?
Initially it was a one-time mailing, but what we have to do is about every 6 months or so I have to go through and update, and luckily I get some law enforcement interns in, and I have them help me out on that because it's a little overwhelming to try to do that along with your other duties, you know, as well. But usually have them update my phone contact list and stuff, and you know, if I have to, I do remailings out or contact them by phone or stop by in person.
So for any of the business folks that are out there and that have gotten these requests or these forms to be filled out, it's extremely important for that to happen and for that to come back to you folks, correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So again, anybody that's out there that hasn't done their form, please get the information filled out and get it back into the police department so that this information is available for them.
And also just to add the educational component with Operation Safeguard, we, the law enforcement departments, provide a document that's specifically geared to a certain type of business with the suspicious indicators. So if there's businesses out there in the community that haven't received that document for their specific type of business and would like it, you can contact Colonie PD or the TIPS line, 1-866-SAFE-NYS, and we can ensure that that proper document is delivered to that business.
So if you've got a business and you're not sure if you should be contacted, you could always call and
Yes.
they'll tell you if you should be supplying the information or not, or should be
Yeah,
on
I
that
think
list.
across the board, there's something that we can provide that would fit with a certain type of business that would come close to what their needs would be. So, you know, there's definitely going to be a document and an educational component that would be appropriate for most businesses out there.
Yeah, I mean, it's like there's 73 categories, everything from auto repair to plastic surgeons to hobby shops. So it's quite extensive.
Just knowing the size of the town of Colonie and the amount of commercial businesses that are here, because we deal with them, it's got to be a monumental task for what you have to do statewide. I mean, there's got to be a lot of businesses out there that have to supply this information into you.
It is. We've really worked hard in the number of years since 9/11 to outreach to as many different types of businesses that are out there, and it's been a collaborative effort. It's not something the state's doing on its own. It's involving all of our law enforcement partners.
Are you getting good response back from people? Are you finding that people want to participate and are willing players in this? Or are you getting this, this is just some other form that the government wants type of thing? What's the feel you've been getting from folks?
You know, I think overall people are receptive when we explain that the importance of the program, and the one document you have here can actually be put up in your business on the window, and it has the number. And I think people are very receptive to, you know, taking the information and, you know, sharing it with their employees. I don't think I've ever encountered a situation that's been negative.
Yes. Sometimes you just get the feeling that this is another form that the government wants, and it's Big Brother kind of looking over our shoulder, but this isn't what this is all about at all. This is making sure that it's the safety of
Our
communities, our families, everybody. So it's real important that everybody becomes an active player into this.
Absolutely.
I'm drawing a blank here for a second. You're going to have to edit, Greg, for once.
Well, I remember down at the school, they actually, one of the big things they said down there is they actually mentioned Safeguard. the school we just came back from.
Yeah, they did talk about that down there, and I guess I was just I was surprised at the what can be constructed and what damage somebody could do if they wanted to inflict a shot. And you look at some of the stuff, the Oklahoma City bombing, the devastation and the ongoing devastation. That wasn't just a one-day incident. That's gone on for years, the traumatic effects and the ultimate fallout from that whole thing has really made a big change in a lot of people's lives. And I mean, if you look at what happened on 9/11, we've all had to change our lives. We just both flew, and you know, you have to go through security. You got to take your shoes off, your coats off, and everything is so much, so tightly scrutinized today, which again is a good thing. And a lot of people, you know, you always hear it when you're standing in the airport lines. This is ridiculous. Why do I have to go through all this? You know, I just want to get on my airplane and get to where I'm going. And but it's all being done for a reason, and it's got a purpose to it. So.
Yeah, I think security is increasing. The airports obviously are a fundamental need for our traveling passengers. You know, there are a lot of soft targets out there that don't have the security that our airports do. So, you know, this is, I think, what we need to do to stay safe in our society today.
And I guess, I think you can back me up on this, they talked about it in the class and they said, if something happens here again, and it's not a question of if it happens again, it's a matter of when it's going to happen again. It may not be that big city. It may not be in the city of New York or the city of London. It may trickle down to the smaller communities. And, you know, we're surrounded in this area. Colonie is a large community. City of Albany, City of Schenectady, City of Troy, Waterville, Cohoes. We're right in the hub of a lot of different stuff here. And it may not be that big city that gets hit. It could be a smaller area, and, you know, we could be in the limelight at some point.
True, and the other factor is that some of the players and that may be involved in, you know, preparing an attack could be just traveling and staying in our community as they prepare to do whatever in another adjacent area. So, you know, just that whole transient element is another issue that we need to be mindful of as well.
We've talked about just New York State being involved, but I spoke to you earlier. You said that there are other states who are sharing this information now. What about other governments? We border both Canada and, you know, we're very close to Canada here, and we have the Mexican border. Are those governments also participating in a lot of this information sharing now?
Yes, we interact very well with our adjacent states. New York State, I think we are a model for a lot of the programs that we have, you know, probably to a great extent because of the terrorism activities that have occurred in New York City. For over the past 20 years or longer, so it hasn't just been since 9/11. In terms of relationships with Canada, CSIS is up there. We have information sharing opportunities where they come down and do programs for us, instructional, and information sharing is ongoing, and the relationships are very good.
Okay. If I wanted to get some more information about this, is there a website that we can go to, or the person can go to get more information about the program and the numbers to call? I know Rick's brought some extra stuff that we can leave here at the library if people want to get some material, but is there a website that we can add on to the?
I would say that the best thing to do is to call the toll-free number. The Homeland Security website is also an option. But definitely the 1-866-SAFE-NYS would be, you know, the primary.
The best way for folks to get information. Okay. I want to thank both of you for coming in today. Again, I hope people, again, have paid a little bit of attention to this and understand that we could be the next person or the next target hit. It doesn't have to be a big city. And the information that they have or something that they see or something, if it doesn't seem right to them, to pass this information along because it could prevent that next big incident from happening. So again, I really appreciate the efforts that you're both putting into this to help make not only Colonie but all of New York State safe. And I really appreciate you coming in and giving us a few minutes and talking about it today.
Thank you for having us. And I'd also like to say Colonie Police Department's been very involved and active in this program, and it's been very nice to see their participation.
Good. Very glad to hear that. As a resident of the town, I'm glad to hear that. So, Again, if anybody has any questions, we're going to have the number posted onto the screen. Please feel free to give that number a call. And if you see something out there, again, it doesn't seem right to you, it just doesn't sit right with you, please call that number and pass the information along. It's better that they have this information than if something happens and you could have been something that, or could have had something that could have made a difference. Any other questions about the show or comments, please feel free to give us a call, and we'll see you again soon. Thank you.